It all started with a single piece of news that spread across the internet like wildfire. A high school student named Shiaosui was accused of pushing her best friend Tian down a staircase. Within hours, the story was everywhere, and thousands of strangers online decided they already knew exactly who she was. They flooded every comment section with cruelty, tearing her apart word by word. And slowly, all of that hate began to break her. Until one day, unable to carry the weight of it anymore, she climbed to the rooftop of her school and let go. But that was only the surface of the story. Somewhere across the city, a woman named Chen Miao was sitting quietly in a cafe, sipping her coffee while scrolling through the trending news of the day. She barely had time to finish her drink before she rushed out to pick up her mother, who had just arrived from another town. Their reunion should have been warm, but it turned cold almost instantly because Chen Miao was furious. She had just learned that her mother had given her phone number to her estranged father, the same man who had abandoned them both years ago, the same man she could never bring herself to forgive. Before they even reached home, her phone rang. It was one of her co-workers, and the news on the other end froze her in place. Shiaosui, the girl at the center of the bullying scandal, had jumped from the school building. Chen Miao dropped her mother off without another word and drove straight to her office, desperate to find out if it was really true. The moment she stepped inside, her co-worker He Yan was already waiting, ready to talk about the crisis unfolding around them. And that is when the full picture came into focus. Chen Miao was not just any journalist. She was the head of a news company called Morning Post. And the very article that branded Shiaosui as a bully, the one that lit the fuse, had been written by her own hand. The realization settled over her like a stone. Her words might have been the thing that pushed a young girl toward the edge. This was only the beginning. Welcome to Trending Topic. As the backlash grew louder, the entire Morning Post team gathered to decide how to survive it. If they moved too slowly, the wave of public anger could bury the whole company. Online, people were already calling them heartless, accusing them of chasing clicks and profit without a shred of concern for the life they had helped destroy. Then the truth behind the scenes came out. 3 days before the bullying video was ever posted, Chen Miao had received the footage from her manager. He had pressured her to turn it into a headline, dangling a promise in front of her. If the story went viral, the company would finally get the funding it had been chasing for so long. He Yan had been against it from the start. As the senior writer, he understood how dangerous the topic was, and he feared it could one day tear the company apart. But Chen Miao and the rest of the staff saw only opportunity. To them, the story was a goldmine, guaranteed to pull in attention and revenue. Now cornered by that same decision, Chen Miao decided the smartest move was to publicly apologize to the victim's family. But her plan was not built on guilt, it was built on strategy. She intended to film the entire thing, quietly polish the company's image, and shift the blame onto the anonymous crowd whose comments had done the real damage. So she gathered a few co-workers and headed to the hospital to meet Xiaosui's mother. There, she carefully staged a video that painted Xiaosui as a victim too, then handed over a donation to help with the medical bills. But she never actually apologized. She only wanted the mother to believe that Morning Post had been on their side all along. Later, as she read article after article showing public opinion swinging back in her favor, a mysterious package arrived for her from an unknown sender. She did not notice it at first because He Yan pulled her aside to celebrate their recovery, proud of how skillfully they had steered the narrative back under their control. The next day, Chen Miao attended the Media Awards, where Morning Post was crowned the most popular and fastest-rising news company in the industry. Riding that high, she approached Director Wu once again to push for the investment funding she had wanted for so long, convinced her company had finally earned it. When she returned to the office to store her new trophy, she finally noticed the package still waiting on her desk. Curious, she opened it and found one of her own books inside, apparently sent by a fan. But this fan was Xiaosui. The book had been mailed before she ever climbed to that rooftop, and as Chen Miao turned the pages, she realized this was no ordinary gift. It was filled with Xiaosui's private writings, her raw confessions about everything the internet had been screaming about. With every page, a darker truth began to surface. And with every line, Chen Miao understood more clearly just how terrible her mistake had been. To make sense of it all, the story rewinds 1 month, back to before the tragedy ever happened. Back then, Xiaosui was a student at a hospitality high school, close friends with a girl named Tian. During a major school event attended by wealthy investors, both girls were chosen to showcase their talents and help entertain the guests. One of the most powerful men in the room was President Director Chung, the owner of a massive media empire. and the man who ultimately sat above even Chen Miao. During the event, the principal personally assigned Shiaosui to attend to Cheng's every request, following his instructions and preparing whatever he wanted. When the night ended, Shiaosui was told to escort him home. What she did not know was that all of it had been arranged in advance between Cheng and the principal. Cheng had singled her out because of her beauty, and that quiet arrangement led to something that would haunt her forever. A few days after that traumatic night, another trap was waiting. Xiaosui received a message from Tian, begging for help, claiming she was being cornered inside a hotel room. Frightened for her friend, Xiaosui rushed straight there. But when she arrived, there was no one to save. It was a setup, carefully staged by President Director Cheng to keep her silent. Betrayed and shaking with anger, Xiaosui confronted Tian and accused her of orchestrating the whole thing. But Tian had no idea what she was talking about and denied any part in it. And as for the staircase incident that started everything, it turned out to be nothing more than an accident. There had never been any push at all. By then, Xiaosui had reached the end of her strength. Abandoned by her friends, branded as a villain by the media, and treated as a monster when she had been the victim all along, she could not hold on any longer. Back in the present, Chen Miao began chasing the truth. She visited the school principal, claiming she wanted to apologize for the fallout from her article. But she was really there for answers, hoping to learn who Xiaosui truly was. The principal gave her nothing, dodging every question and slipping away with an excuse about another event to attend. Later, while checking on Xiaosui's condition, Chen Miao ran into Tian and tried to speak with her. Tian insisted she had never sent any message asking for help and swore the whole thing had been one giant misunderstanding. Back at the office, Chen Miao was drained and frustrated. She barely reacted when He Yan asked where she had been for days, especially with the next article still unwritten. Bitterly, she told him it might be for the best, since now he could write whatever he wanted without her getting in the way. Still desperate for the truth, she contacted Director Wu and demanded to know what really happened in the Yao Sui case. Instead of offering answers, he flipped the blame back onto her, reminding her that she was the one who posted the video in the first place. Boiling with anger, Chen Miao handed Xiaosui's book to every one of her co-workers and asked them to read it. The evidence inside was undeniable, and even Director Wu privately admitted the truth of it. But none of that changed anything. The people at Morning Post were just a small group of ordinary workers standing against men with enormous wealth and power, and President Director Cheng was one of their biggest financial backers. Challenge him openly, and the entire company could vanish overnight. After the others left, He Yan stayed behind and asked her what she planned to do. All he could offer was a quiet warning. Do not throw away everyone's future just to save one girl. That night, Chen Miao returned to the hospital to check on Xiaosui, but she found that the girl had already been moved to the ICU, a sign that her condition had turned critical. As she left, a message arrived from Director Wu. President Director Cheng wanted to meet her in person, but the invitation was never about a conversation. It was a bribe, a fresh offer of the very funding she had always wanted, dangled in front of her to buy her silence. Cheng himself was there, hiding nearby, but he never showed his face. He left Director Wu to handle the mess he had made. The moment Chen Miao realized what the meeting truly was, something inside her shifted. The funding no longer mattered. For the first time, justice meant more to her than money. She decided to fight back against President Director Cheng, a man she now saw for exactly what he was, a predator hiding behind wealth and reputation. During the heated argument, Director Wu left behind a cooperation agreement, hoping she would sign it quietly and walk away from the truth. Instead, Chen Miao sent a message to He Yan and her team. She told them that Xiaosui had chosen her, and because of that, she had no choice but to help, no matter what it cost. Her employees could only respond with worry and quiet support, knowing how powerless they were against people so far above them. Not long after, Chen Miao published a major article aimed directly at Director Wu and the men above him. She posted it herself, making it clear that she alone would carry the consequences and that none of her employees would be dragged into the fire. The story spread instantly and became the center of everything. Director Wu and several executives summoned her to answer for the damage, but she had already prepared herself. She accepted every accusation calmly, and in the end, she stepped down as the leader of Morning Post. Once the company appointed a new head, Chen Miao warned Director Wu that the previous night had only been the opening move. Then she walked out side by side with 3 employees who chose to resign and stand with her in the fight for the truth. With nowhere else to go, Chen Miao and her small team searched for a place to keep working. Luckily, a friend of hers owned an unused building and let them borrow it as a temporary office. After they cleaned it up, the only man in the group began explaining how the whole ordeal had started, long before any of them had gotten involved. Soon after, Chen Miao published another article, revealing how Shiaosui had been manipulated and trapped by President Director Chung, twisted into looking like a girl who had sold herself for gain. The other side struck back immediately, and just like that, a full-scale media war erupted. Meanwhile, Director Wu paid the principal a visit, pressuring him to shut everything down before it collapsed on all of them. Even Director Wu was starting to feel the ground shifting beneath him, wondering if he might be the next one arrested or thrown out of the company. At the same time, Chen Miao went to the school hoping to speak with the principal, only to be told he was too busy to see her. As she turned to leave, she caught sight of something strange. Tian was being picked up by Director Wu and driven off somewhere. And that moment planted a question in her mind. What kind of connection could those two possibly share? Not long after, one of her employees, Ye, managed to get his hands on the CCTV footage from the night of the incident. But after watching it again and again, they discovered something deeply wrong. Hours of recordings had been erased, and there was not a single frame showing Shiaosui together with President Director Chung. The footage was useless. And now Chen Miao and her team had to find something else before the public began to doubt them. So she came up with a new plan. She began filming the daily life of Shiaosui's mother, capturing her grief in the most raw and heartbreaking way possible, hoping viewers would feel her pain and finally take Shiaosui's side. With no platform of her own, Chen Miao turned to another media contact and asked him to post it. At first he refused, afraid of crossing a man as powerful as Chung. But when she offered to pay several times the usual rate, he agreed. Once the video went live, it drew a wave of sympathy. And in the middle of that rising support, a former student from the same hospitality school stepped forward, revealing that she had suffered the exact same fate as Shiaosui. Feeling responsible, Chen Miao decided to cover all of Shiaosui's hospital bills. But when she realized how quickly her savings were vanishing, she turned her frustration toward her mother for spending money carelessly. What angered her even more was learning that some of it had been quietly sent to her father, the man who had abandoned them and only ever reappeared when he needed money. Meanwhile, Director Wu watched the viral video with growing irritation and prepared his counterattack. He planned to use an audio recording of Xiaosui's mother, one that suggested she had willingly let her daughter get close to Chung in exchange for favors. But instead of panicking, Chen Miao turned it against him. She realized that by releasing the recording at all, Director Wu had accidentally admitted that Chung really did have something to do with Xiaosui. In one move, his weapon became his own downfall. Her response article detonated across the internet and shot straight to the top of every trending list. Desperate to contain it, Director Wu called He Yan and demanded the article be pulled before the staff even arrived at work. This time, even President Director Chung lost his temper and summoned Director Wu for a private conversation. But Wu had already prepared his next trick, pushing out a different story with a similar theme, hoping to drag the public's attention toward a brand new scandal. His logic was simple. If Chen Miao failed to land another major blow, the Xiaosui case would slowly fade, buried beneath whatever fresh controversy he could manufacture. As Chen Miao searched for her next move, she got a call from Xiaosui's mother, asking to meet. But the meeting was nothing like she expected. Instead of standing with her, the mother begged her to stop digging, to let the past disappear. She explained that Director Wu had transferred Xiaosui to a better hospital, and if Chen Miao kept fighting, her daughter's future might be the price. Chen Miao saw right through it. Every word had clearly been planted by Director Wu. Furious and heartbroken, she left. But not before telling the mother exactly how she felt about a parent who failed to protect her own child from the people who ruined her. Convinced he had finally won, Director Wu celebrated with He Yan and the principal. After the party ended, he drove the principal home, then picked up Tian and disappeared with her once again. The crushing defeat cost Chen Miao one of her team members, who lost hope and left for another job. But just as everything seemed lost, a spark returned. Ye uncovered information about yet another former student who had suffered the same fate as Xiaosui. The moment Chen Miao heard it, she rushed to find her. And when she arrived, she realized she already knew the woman. It was Nurse Yao, the very same nurse who had been caring for Xiaosui all along. Chen Miao pleaded with her to become the witness who could finally put President Director Chung behind bars. She believed that if one survivor found the courage to speak, others might follow. At first, Nurse Yao refused, but as the memories of what had happened to her 5 years earlier came flooding back, she agreed. She understood Xiaosui's pain better than anyone. That revelation also explained why Director Wu had looked so shaken the moment he saw Nurse Yao's face. He had recognized her instantly. To escape her trauma, she had changed her identity and moved far away, hoping she would never again cross paths with the school, Director Wu, or President Director Chung, the three forces that had once worked together to destroy her. After recording the interview with Nurse Yao, Chen Miao reached out to small content creators to help share it, but not one of them would touch it. Left with no other choice, she decided to post it herself through her personal account. To build anticipation, she released a series of teaser posts designed to make people hungry for the truth she was about to reveal. The teasers stirred up mixed reactions. Her mother questioned why she would willingly ruin the reputation of the company's biggest investor. He, Yan, grew anxious, worried he might lose to her after all. But Director Wu showed no fear at all, almost as if he already knew something she did not. Finally, the moment came to release the video everyone had been waiting for. But right in the middle of uploading it, a desperate call came through. It was Nurse Yao, begging her not to post it, warning that if it spread, her own life could be in danger. Director Wu and the principal had already paid her a personal visit. The instant Chen Miao understood the threat, she stopped the upload. And that single decision tore her team apart, especially Ye, who believed all their work had been building toward exactly this moment. In his eyes, releasing the video would have ended Chung once and for all. Furious and disappointed, he stormed out, leaving only Chen Miao and Rui Shi behind. Online, the angry crowd turned on her for breaking her promise, and what little credibility she had left crumbled even further. Rebuilding public trust now felt almost impossible. Sensing her weakness, Director Wu launched another assault. He asked He Yan to stir up even more controversy, hoping to force Chen Miao out of hiding so they could finish destroying her. Then he publicly rebranded her as the true villain, and the plan worked flawlessly. Countless people piled on, mocking and humiliating her without mercy. Chen Miao stayed silent because there was nothing left to say. The only card she once held was now impossible to play. And then came the news that shattered whatever strength she had left. Shiaosui had died. The only reason Chen Miao had kept fighting was for that girl. And now she was gone. Overwhelmed with grief, Chen Miao stood in the office and slowly wiped away every plan scrawled across the whiteboard. Yet even then, she kept sending messages to Shiaosui through WeChat, knowing they would never be read, knowing the girl no longer had her phone. Those unanswered chats became the only place she could pour out her guilt and her sorrow. Elsewhere, He Yan was seen meeting with Director Wu inside the main company building. It became clear that Wu still wanted to push Chen Miao deeper into despair. He asked how to break the last of her defenses, and He Yan suggested that if they truly wanted to destroy her, they would have to attack her from the inside. Later, when Chen Miao met with Rui Shi, she noticed her teammate acting strangely. Rui Shi had been watching a podcast interview featuring Chen Miao's father. On screen, he humiliated and mocked his own daughter, showing no concern at all for the pain she was already drowning in. When she left the cafe, the rain began to pour, as if the sky itself was grieving alongside her. Walking alone through the downpour, she was suddenly stopped by Director Wu, who offered her a deal. He wanted her to apologize publicly during a live broadcast. In exchange, the crushing 10 million yuan fine he had placed on her would be wiped away completely. After he left, her mother arrived to comfort her, trying to pull her back from the edge of her sadness. She even offered to take Chen Miao home and use her own retirement savings to pay the enormous fine if her daughter refused to apologize. After a long night wrestling with the decision, Chen Miao finally agreed to give the public apology on a live stream arranged by He Yan. For everyone who had ever admired her, it was painful to watch. Her employees could only stand by in silence, witnessing the woman they respected most being humiliated by the very people they despised. At first, everything unfolded exactly the way President Director Chung wanted. Smooth, controlled, with Chen Miao seemingly ready to accept her defeat. And then, the whole thing turned. Chen Miao veered away from the script and openly declared that President Director Cheng and Director Wu had committed unforgivable crimes against victims like Shiaosui and Nurse Yao. The reason she finally dared to speak was because of what happened the night before. A reply had come through from Xiaosui's WeChat account, but the person behind those messages was Tian. Tian revealed the truth at last. The message that lured Xiaosui into that hotel had never come from her. Director Wu had secretly taken her phone, sent the message himself, and deleted it before she ever knew. Tian also explained that she and Xiaosui had tried again and again to expose the truth through tiny anonymous accounts, but no one had ever listened. That was why Xiaosui had made her final, desperate choice, believing that only something drastic could force the world to finally pay attention. During their secret meeting, Tian promised Chen Miao that she held concrete evidence capable of bringing down both Director Wu and President Director Chung. It turned out that Director Wu had been secretly recording Chung's actions for years, terrified that his boss might one day betray him. Those recordings were his insurance, his way of protecting his own position. And Tian, who had been in a hidden relationship with Director Wu, had used that closeness to quietly copy every piece of evidence onto a flash drive. That was the real reason he had always been the one picking her up after school. As the live stream spiraled further out of his control, Director Wu rushed toward the studio to shut it down. But before he could reach her, He Yan stepped into his path and blocked him. And in that moment, the last secret was revealed. He Yan had been on Chen Miao's side the entire time. To keep the plan hidden, she had made it look as though He Yan and the others despised her, letting Director Wu believe he held all the power. Even the televised podcast attacking her, even the man pretending to be her cruel father, had all been part of her design from the very start. She had asked He Yan to hire an actor to play her father, just to lull Director Wu into believing his manipulation was working perfectly. Once the explosive livestream ended, everything collapsed on the men responsible. Director Wu, the school principal, and President Director Chung were all arrested after Tian handed the evidence over to the police. As for Chen Miao, she chose to walk away from the media world for good. But no matter where life took her next, the guilt of Shiaosui's death was something she knew she would carry for the rest of her days. And that is where the story comes to an end. A truly shocking ending. So the moral of the story is never trust rich old men, school principals, or WeChat messages at 2 a.m. because your entire life might turn into a 48-episode trauma documentary.